Do you want to put it to the agenda page so I can all see for? I'm talking to it. All right. That's fine. Do we want to close one of those doors at the back? You just leave it wide open.
Just leave it open, it's fine.
Okay. I'll stop everything.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be making a start in a minute. Could you please take a chair? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Stirling and also to those of you watching from home. I'd like to introduce you to our Mayor of the City of Stirling, Mr. Mark Irwin, and ask him to open the meeting, please.
Thanks very much, Jamie. Good evening, everyone, and welcome along tonight. My name's Mark Irwin. I'm the Mayor of the City of Stirling, and on behalf of the councillors, I certainly welcome you here to find out a little bit more about the City of Stirling, how we operate, and what you're in for if you decide to continue on your path to becoming a councillor. So I'll start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I've got a very short role here tonight. It's just really to welcome you, to let you know that there's a bit of a journey ahead if you choose to take that path. I've met many of you just before, and I've met quite a few of you previous to that. Some of you I spend way too much time with on Tuesday nights. Yes, I'm looking at you, Simon. And the City of Stirling has a lot to offer. We're the largest local government in Western Australia, 220,000 residents. We've got an economy of about $17 billion. We cover 100,000 square kilometres. We're the most multicultural, diverse. It's an exciting place to be. And what I do want to get across to you all is that's a real benefit when you run as a councillor for the City of Stirling. It gives you plenty of opportunities. We're a very financial council. We've got many projects on the go. We're diverse, so there's so many different projects, whether you're interested in sustainability, whether you're interested in clubroom rebuilds or parks and reserves, whether you're interested in road networks or how we do transport better. There's so many things for you to get involved in. There's so many big projects on the go, and there's many projects that get opened. So what it does do, I feel, as our councillors probably agree, it keeps us interested. It means we don't have to sort of always spend our time getting bogged down in those little community issues. It's a diverse role. You're going to find out about residents ringing you late at night asking for your assistance because their bin didn't get emptied the night before. Yes, that happens. You're going to find out about those sort of things. You're going to find out about neighbours, as some people did on Tuesday night, who don't want the club rooms next door to get upgrades because it's really going to affect how they live their day-to-day lives. You're going to be lobbied by big community groups who want better amenity in their area or park upgrades or massive community infrastructure. You're going to hear about all those sort of things, but also as a council, you sit around a table and have that board role where you make really important decisions based on the financial sustainability of this council, what our strategic direction is in planning or waste management, how we spend our money to better facilitate community interaction. So there's plenty of exciting stuff. Tonight, you're going to hear from Jamie, our Manager of Governance. You're also going to hear from the Electoral Commission. You're going to hear from our CEO, Stuart Jardine, as well. I do want to let you all know that councillors as well, feel free to reach out to any of us. If you want to have a chat after this, you're welcome to ring me. I'm happy to sit down with you individually and go through some things that happens on council, give you a better understanding before you make a decision, maybe help you with your decision or where you should run, any of those sort of things, and just let you know the ins and outs of it. And I'm sure most of councillors, the sitting councillors, would be happy to do the same. So don't be afraid to reach out if you need that extra information. Also, at the end of this, you're probably going to have lots of questions, and I'm pretty sure that it'd be really hard in this forum to get them answered. So feel free to reach out to the City of Stirling. I'm sure the Manager of Governance and Stuart will have the same offer for you. Reach out and just ask us those questions so you make an informed decision. It does take a little bit of time, as you again are going to find out this evening, and that's one of the reasons I'm dressed a bit casual tonight, because after this, or just about halfway through this, I'm going to be taking off to spend some time with my family, who I haven't seen much of this week. So enjoy this evening. I'll now go back to the Manager of Governance. I think, is that you, Jamie? You coming out? Yep. And yeah, enjoy this evening. I hope you learn a bit. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my name's Jamie Blanchard, the Manager of Governance at the City of Stirling. And what the Mayor didn't mention is that one of the great joys of being a councillor is you get to spend every Tuesday night with me and my team. We do endeavour to support council as best we can, and we're improving on that all the time. To talk you through about what we are going to look at this evening, as Mr. Mayor mentioned, we will have an overview of the City of Stirling from our Chief Executive Officer, Stuart Jardine. We'll then hear from Councillor Karen Caddy about being a councillor. We're lucky enough to hear from me about election signs and where you can put them. Then the WA Electoral Commission will be presenting on the electoral process and also introducing you to the returning officer. In terms of questions and answers, the Mayor's right. We won't be doing a question and answer session here. Everyone here will be available for a quick chat after this session. We'll have their contact details up on the last slide, so feel free to make contact with anyone that you need information from in order to make your decision about whether you're running, and after you have, to run a good campaign. So I'll now introduce you to our Chief Executive Officer, Stuart Jardine.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks for coming along, everyone. Just going to run through some of the statistics about the city. And there's a lot of information, as Jamie has just said and the Mayor said previously. So you have a USB tonight that you can take away with you. If you go online, we've got our annual report, which is very comprehensive. If you need further information, please ask about it. We can help you in any way we can. It's a large, complex organisation. It's the largest local government in WA by population, and we provide more services than anywhere else. But I'm not here to do an advert about it, just to give you some of the basic information about the city. So I don't intend to give you death by PowerPoint, but as you can see there, there's some big numbers in terms of these statistics relating to the city. There we go. And for those of you who are not familiar with our wards, and we've got 221,000 population across 7 wards. It is very busy, a lot of the community to represent, and there's an awful lot of interactions with the community, many of them very positive. So that is the 100 square kilometres of the city. So we have a strategic community plan. That's something that the council has got very strong ownership of, and that sets out basically the direction of where the city applies itself and where the money is allocated to enable that strategic plan to happen. As it says there, that's the 2018-2028. We'll be doing a major update of that commencing later in the year, starting with a lot of community interactions. What's interesting right now in terms of the sector is that the state government continues to bring out new regulations, and there's a suggestion that a lot of the planning documents that are produced will become one overriding community strategic plan, and we'll have to see what that looks like. And my understanding that that's currently being drafted in terms of regulations on which will be consulted in due course. There's always a lot of interest on where the city's money goes, and one thing that the city has got a reputation for, and you can go on my council website if you want to do comparisons with other local governments, You can go in any direction from the city of Stirling, and as soon as you cross the border, you'll be paying more rates. We provide more services than any other local government, and we're debt-free, and the council is prudent in the sense of trying to keep the rate increases each year as low as possible whilst delivering those priorities of the city. And there's a chart showing you where the money goes. And again, if you compare that to other local governments, you can see there's significant sums of money are spent across the organisation in those services. And that's a responsibility as part of the budget deliberations that are very intensive for the council, working with the executive to go through to deal with those priorities. And that process in itself takes around about 4 months. Right. I didn't write this, but I agree with most of it. And I think an elected member, from my experience, you've got a great opportunity as an individual working in a team, because at the end of the day, if you want to get decisions made in council, it's got to be by a majority. Working in a team, you can make a huge difference for your community. So don't underestimate that contribution that can be made if you want to be a hands-on councillor in the new council in October. So this presentation is all on the USB. You want to reflect on it later. Skills of an elected member. Again, personal perspective, the complexity of being part of the organisation every year increases. There's more regulations, rules, acts, demands, aspirations, and you've got to juggle all that whilst providing services. And probably got a bias here, but I think we do a very good job of that, and we test that with the community. There's a couple of you here tonight that might not agree with me, because I see at question time fairly regular, but we endeavour to do our best, and there's a very strong team of talented people working very hard to make that happen. There's an increasing emphasis, particularly in the last 5 years, around the whole issue of governance. And it's if you look across the sector and read the media, there's no surprises at the moment. There's various inquiries and governance reviews taking place, because there's it's not always smooth sailing in local governments. Stirling, in my view, is very stable, very professional, very high standards of governance. And that doesn't happen by chance. You've got to put a great deal of effort in to make that happen. Jamie and his team lead the governance side of things, but it's just as much of that partnership with council as well. I'm always intrigued when I read about the powers of CEOs and the powers of the council, but very clearly in my mind, I'm the head of the paid service, and I'm an advisor to the council. It's not the other way around. Council make the important strategic decisions. They agree and adopt a budget. They agree and adopt a strategic plan, and that's led by council, supported by a talented executive team, of which I'm a member. And we'll just touch on those roles, because from time to time, it's not always clear, but that's one area that we're very clear on. So the role of the mayor. I didn't write this. This is set out from the 1995 Local Government Act, Mark. So, presides at meetings. You can watch it on YouTube on a Tuesday night. For leadership and guidance to the community in the district. Again, that's formal words that are used in the Act. The civic ceremonial side of things. Speaks on behalf of the local government, that's formally. Again, that's set out in terms of what can and cannot happen. Liaises with the CEO, that happens several times a day, most days. Performs other functions that may be prescribed, that's always interesting. How far does that go? And that can be a challenge from time to time. And just in terms of the city's history, the current mayor was the first one to be elected by the community in 2019. So what decisions do council make? And you can see there we've got the strategic community plan providing the overall view. You've got the corporate business plan that's we update on an annual basis, sets out in a lot of detail what's going to be achieved in a particular year. But it's that overall visioning and goals together with the financial management, developing and reviewing local government policies. We've got more policies than any other local government, and that's something that the council reviews very regularly, quite often challenges. We workshop and to see where we can get improvements in those spaces, consult. And again, it all helps the good governance of the city. We talked previously about the wealth of information. I was conscious when I saw the first draft, we had that much information there, and it's not wanting to overwhelm you, but also provide pertinent information. So on the USB, there's all this information. So I've mentioned the administration led by myself. There's an organisational structure there. If you want to have a look at that, if you want further details on that, that's contained in the annual reports. Allowances and entitlements for elected members. They're not set by the city, they're set by the state government through the state administrative tribunal and updated each year. There's also a whole list of dates of inductions after the election and when meeting commitments. So basically, if you're lucky enough or unfortunate enough to become a councillor after October, you can write off most Tuesday nights because that's probably our busiest night. Mondays are also workshop evenings, so again, quite a busy schedule. We're going to come back to election signage policy. That's always challenging and interesting for the likes of myself at this time of year. There's been a clear update in terms of simplifying what electoral gifts are, and there's a form for that. And there's an updated code of conduct for all councils and officers, which is also included on the USB. If you want to know further information, and as I say, at any time, if anyone after the meeting tonight decides that there's something that you want to clarify, you can contact any of us, including myself, who will provide information. But meanwhile, there's a couple of opportunities there if you want to go to a couple of other events to get further information. Right, at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce an experienced councillor, Councillor Karen Caddy, who's retiring shortly and going to give you some of her knowledge and experience of what it's been like to be a councillor. Karen.
Thanks, Stuart. Well, between you and Mark, you haven't left me an awful lot to say. You've covered an awful lot of the bases, but I guess my purpose here is to tell you, what life is like as a councillor, and just give you a little bit of insight about what you might be in for if you're successful. So, but I've been told by Jamie I'm not to scare you all too much. So, I'll try not to scare you off. But look, I've been a councillor at the City of Stirling for 8 years, and it's been an incredibly rewarding experience. This is a very high quality organisation. You're working with a group of really committed councillors and absolutely amazing staff. So, I mean, the first thing I suppose to recognise is that you're joining here, or you have an opportunity here to join an excellent team. And probably that's the most important thing to understand, is that this is a team. Unlike other positions, you don't actually carry authority by yourself. You carry authority as part of the council. And so it is about working together as a team that you get things done. So that, to me, is one of the most rewarding things about council, and what makes local government different from other parts of government, where you don't have, there's no sort of people in power and people in opposition. Every councillor sitting around the table is an equal voice of 15, and you have your chance on every single issue that comes before council to have your say and to try and persuade people to your point of view. And I think that's a really important and big responsibility. As Stuart has covered an awful lot of, what sorts of decisions come to council. I suppose you spend about maybe half of your time being kind of like a board member of a big organisation. So as has been said, you make budget decisions, you make policy decisions, you set the strategic direction. You get to talk about, what the Stirling city centre is going to be like in the next 20 years. You get to think about how we're going to transform our communities. And that's kind of really cool long-term strategic thinking. And then you spend a good portion of your time dealing with the things that your community cares about here and now. As Mark said, you get the phone calls about the dogs barking and the bins not being picked up. But you also get to work with the people in your communities who are working to make a difference. You get to work with the amazing volunteers who look after our local clubs, who look after our friends groups, who look after all of our not-for-profits. You spend an awful lot of time with them trying to support them, trying to make sure that when they've got issues that they get surfaced at council level and resolved. And that is also a really rewarding part of the job. But that takes time, and a lot of that occurs outside of hours. So I suppose in terms of what is the commitment of time on council, as Stuart has said, workshops are on Monday nights, so you'd pretty much have to assume every second Monday or so you'd be here. Council meetings are Tuesday nights and also committee meetings, so pretty much every Tuesday night you're here. Those are the compulsory activities, but I don't think there's a councillor here who then doesn't put their hand up for something else on top of that. So there's Wednesday nights, depending on which committees you're on. There's Thursday night, depending on which committees you're on. And that leaves Friday night to go and visit your local clubs and to participate in, their AGMs. And then you're at the weekend and, you go into functions, and then Monday rolls around again. So look, it is a significant time commitment. I know that there are councillors who do council on top of a full-time job. Hats off to you guys, because to be honest, I found I couldn't. I actually found the right balance for me was 3 days of professional work and about 2 days of council on top of that. So, but I think we all find our own balance points. But it is a significant contribution to your time, and that is something to take into account. What have I missed, guys? Anything? Look, it is a way. I've learned more about my community since being a councillor than I ever had before. I've met such a diverse group of people. You get to help some people. You also don't get to help some people, and you have to be okay with that. Probably the other big thing to note is that, I know some people come onto council because they want to change the world, and they can get disillusioned because there's only so much is within our power to change. So I think it is worth doing your research and understanding whether the issues you care about are actually within the purview of local government, because I know some people come on, think they can change something that's actually a state government responsibility, and then they get quite disillusioned that they can't have the influence they want. So do a bit of research, come along to a few council meetings. The agendas are big, but they're really well written, so don't let that scare you off. Our officers do an amazing job of writing really, really good reports. So it is manageable to get through them. But come along, see whether the sort of things we talk about at council is of interest to you, because you're going to spend a lot of time talking about them. So if they're not interesting, then maybe it's not for you. But if it is, then I hope you throw your hat in the ring. I hope you enjoy the process of running for election, because it's a little bit scary, but it's also really fun at the same time. And I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Councillor Caddy. I'm here now to talk to you about election signs, which might seem a very small thing to talk about in the context of the big things you've just heard about, but it's a very important part of our democracy. And one of the prices we pay for living in a democracy is every election there's a proliferation of election signs. We get complaints about it, and there's not a lot we can do about it, because part of the democratic process is for our community to get to know our candidates. Outdoor advertising is an extremely effective way of getting your name and your face and your message out to the people in your local community, and we understand that. When you're placing your signs out, we have one real critical priority, and that is safety. The safety of our community is paramount. This year has been quite exceptional in the number of storms that have come through Perth, and we're lucky enough that election time for local government falls in September, which is traditionally Perth's stormiest month. So just because it's a nice, clear, fine, wind-free day when you put your sign out doesn't mean it won't be windy, wet and wild in a couple of days' time. So wherever you put a sign out or a member of your campaign team puts a sign out, make sure it's secure. It will quickly derail your campaign if there's a photo of your sign stuck under someone's car wheel posted onto social media. So we really want to make sure that the signs are secure and safe. The way that signs are regulated depends on where they're put. So signs on private property have very little regulation about them. As long as they're safe and secure, and you have the consent of the owner of that private property, you can place a sign there. And it can be a small sign or a big sign. As long as the owner of that property is happy and it's secure, then that is at your discretion. We also allow signage in public property. Firstly, Reed Highway, Mitchell Freeway are controlled access roads, so main roads won't allow signs on those roads. The other roads that are under the city's jurisdiction, we do allow signs on those roads, but we want to make sure there's a fair opportunity for all the candidates. And so we've put a few rules around the signs to make sure that, again, we keep the community safe, but we also give all the candidates an opportunity to place a sign. So again, careful around intersections. Don't put your signs too close to an intersection. Make sure they're not obstructing sight lines or getting in the way of traffic signals or other traffic signage. It's really important. We also say that you should put a 500-metre gap between your signs. So you can have one or two signs. That's you could have two signs, one after the other on one side of the road, or one sign on each side of the road, and then leave 500 metres before you put another sign or pair of signs out. The reason we say that is that we want to leave some space for all the other candidates who might like to put their signs out, and to give everyone an opportunity to find a safe place to put their sign and for it to be seen. So again, that the idea of making sure that your signs are safe and secure and in the right location. You can't place your signs on city facilities. We can't have candidates associating themselves with the city, and we don't like our infrastructure to be damaged either. And please don't put signs on trees. Some people think it's a good idea. It's not. There is on your USB an election signs policy. It's 3 pages long. It's really simple to read. Work your way through it. And remember that there's an opportunity for everyone to get their signs out there. Make sure that if people are putting out the signs on your behalf, that they do so knowing about the policy. So give them a copy of the policy as well. When can you put signs out? We say 2 months beforehand. And if any one of you looks at the calendar, that means that you can get busy this weekend if you really want to. We ask that signs are removed within a couple of days of the election. So you'll find that if you leave your signs out, they won't be there for very long. We do ask you to collect them yourselves afterwards. We do from time to time get complaints about signs that are put out incorrectly. They go through our community safety team and they go and assess them against the policy, and we'll generally give you a call and say, hey, you've got a sign that's put out incorrectly. Do you want to come and get it and move it to another location? If you think that you'd like to leave the sign there and let it ride, you might find that the sign goes missing and ends up in our impoundment yard. So that's really the message on election signs. There are rules about authorisation of all electoral advertising, but I will leave that to the Electoral Commission to tell you more about that. Again, any questions about the election signs policy or election signs, feel free to contact me, and my contact details will be on the last slide. Next, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Phil Richards from the West Australian Electoral Commission to present on the electoral process. Phil and I have been doing local government elections together here and in other local governments all of this century. So he's a very experienced operator, and we're lucky to have him here tonight. Thank you very much, Phil.
Thanks, Jamie. Welcome, everybody. My name is Phil Richards. I'm Manager of Election Events at the Electoral Commission. It is my job, together with my co-manager, Kay Heron, to manage election events for the WA Electoral Commission, and obviously the local government elections, ordinary elections every 2 years, is one of our major election events. The Commission will be conducting local government elections for 98 local governments this election, which would be approximately 97% of the elector base statewide. These range from yourselves as the biggest local government, and I think Yalgoo has come on board for the first time with about 110 electors total. So you can see the variation across the board between local governments. Which one do I use? Just right one? Yeah. Yep. Good. Okay, so I'll go through some of the major items, eligibility and the election process. So who's eligible to be councillor? 18 years of age or over. You need to be enrolled as an elector of the district. So not necessarily the ward you're standing for, as long as you're an elector in the City of Stirling. So that's either the residence roll, which is the state roll. So wherever you're enrolled on the WA state roll, wherever that residence is located, in which local government you're on that elected to there. Or there is also the non-resident owner-occupier. So you may reside in a adjoining local government, but you own or occupy property in the City of Stirling. You need to apply to get on the owner-occupier roll, and you once you're there, you're an elector, and you can stand as a candidate. However, there's also what we call the body corporate. So if a company owns the property, they get to nominate 2 people to get on the owner-occupiers roll. If that's your only entitlement on the roll, you can vote, but you can't stand as a candidate. So you need to be on the residence roll or on the owner-occupier under your own right. You must have completed the mandatory course Induction for Prospective Candidates, which is on the Department of Local Government, Sport and Recreation website. That is mandatory. You must complete that before you actually nominate. And there's the link there. And you can't be a candidate in another election for council, so you can't nominate for 2 wards, basically. However, it's not the case in this election, but in 2019, if there is a popularly elected mayor and councillor, you can nominate for both and run for mayor and councillor. But there's no mayoral this time, so it's just councillors. Okay, some of the disqualifications. Basically, you can't be a member of parliament. No members of parliament here tonight. Basically convicted of a crime and in prison. No day releases from prison here tonight. No, excellent. Convicted of preceding 5 years of serious local government offence, or convicted of offence which penalty was imprisonment for more than 5 years. So those sections, disqualifications, are covered between sections 2.20 and 2.24 of the Local Government Act list. That's list elected member of another local government. So if you actually wanted to stand as a candidate for City of Stirling and you were a elected member of another local government, you must resign that position before you nominate. So we'll have probably 2 USBs. The Commission also has the USBs, so that has some information about for candidates and scrutineers, some forms, some relevant forms, disclosure, gifts form, appointment scrutineer, and some various other, including a whole series of fact sheets from the Department of Local Government that have downloaded and put on that USB. And we've also included in that a copy of the Code of Conduct for the City of Stirling, a change to the Local Government Act. Since 2019, the Model Code of Conduct's come out, which gets adopted by each local government, and that is for sitting councillors, also staff, but also candidates. Candidates are covered now with these Code of Conducts. What makes an effective nomination? Basically, you need to have completed and a signed nomination form, and you need to have, as I mentioned, completed that course titled the Induction for Prospective Candidates. When you complete that course, you get an email back which includes a reference number and the date of completion. Okay, that now needs to be placed on the nomination form. There is room, there's been an update to the regulations and the nomination form that were gazetted on the 30th of July for that to happen. So you need to put that reference number and the date of completion. You must do that before you nominate. Candidate profile, deposit of $80, and all that needs to be received by the returning officer prior to the close of nominations. To assist candidates for elections conducted by the West Australian Electoral Commission, we've developed our online nomination builder, and that's available from the Commission's website there, elections.wa.gov.au. It's on the front page of the nomination builder. Basically, that allows the candidate to fill out the nomination form, prepare their profile, upload a photograph, and also allows you to prepare a profile in a nice A4 that will go on the website when you nominate, and that's now mandatory. It used to be the previously used to be the notice board. It now must appear on the website, and also show you how the election material, your profile, is going to appear in the election package. So you get a nice A4 one with nice formatting, as well as the straight text version that appears in the election package. However, you cannot nominate online. It's a tool to help you assist. You prepare it, and then you meet with the returning officer, print it out, review it, and then sign it. And you can sign it in front of the returning officer, and then they can accept it. So that's what the nomination builder looks like when you go into it. Obviously, if you're going in first time, you'd be creating a new nomination, and you go and start filling in the details. You can, if you get halfway through and get interrupted, you can leave that. You need to take a note of the reference number there and the password that you've created when you first go in, and then you can go back in. You put that reference number, you put your password, and you can go back in at any time and complete it. There's also a little video there that will appear on the front page there, and you can run through that, and it'll show you the steps by steps to do that. So basically, you go in and you put in the information, and one of the things of the nomination builder that it does do is performs a character count. So again, one of the changes to the regulations gazetted on the 30th of July this year is the profile, which used to be 150 words maximum, is now 800 characters, including spaces. Okay? Characters includes any punctuation, full stop, commas, question mark, anything like that is counted as a character, as well as any number, any letter. So it's all, and including spaces. So it's 800 characters, And the nomination builder you see when you start entering that will have a character count to help you assist. Basically, you complete that material, you review it, and that you can then, like I said, save that and then meet with the returning officer. You can let the returning officer know of what your reference number is so they can go in and review it and make sure that everything's okay before you come in to meet with them. Then you just meet with the returning officer and complete the nomination. So profile, as I mentioned, it's now 800 characters, including spaces. It must be written in English. Biographical information about your candidate, about yourselves, your policies, your beliefs. Cannot have any material that's false or misleading. Can include a passport size recent photograph, so it needs to be recent. Head or shoulders, it's recent, or if it's longer than 6 months, as long as the returning officer makes the determination it's a reasonable likeness. So no baby photos or any photos of you in your teens with your long hair and things like that. That's for the people. So yeah, it needs to be a recent photograph. And basically you need to supply at least one personal contact. It can be a phone number, it can be a social media, it can be an email address, it can be a postal address, but you need to supply at least one contact detail. And that profile will be placed on the council's website as well as included in the postal package that goes out to all the electors. As a candidate, once you've nominated, you're entitled to a copy of the electoral roll for campaigning purposes. There is the residence roll, which I've mentioned, which is the state electoral roll, and the owner-occupiers roll. So you're entitled to a copy of those for the district or the ward, in your case, the ward that you would be contesting. The residence roll comes in two formats. There's a PDF in name order, but also a text file in habitation order. So it's already set up. If you want to go door knocking, it will have in street order, 1 Mary Street, 2 Mary Street, 3. So if you actually want to go door knocking, you'll have the names of those people for each of those streets. You can also use that file if you want to do a mail out with the mailing house. They'll be able to manipulate that to post out your election material if you wish to do that way. The postal voting packages, after nominations close on 4 p.m. on the 9th of September, we'll be busy preparing approximately, I envisage, between 1.6 to 1.7 million election packages across the state for just over 200 separate elections. So for the metropolitan local governments, lodgement of election packages will commence on Wednesday, the 22nd of September. So that's lodged with Australia Post through to Friday, the 24th. For this election, the Commission is actually going with 2 mailing houses rather than a single mailing house. So we envisage that all our election packages, all 1.6 to 1.7 million, will be lodged over a week's period with Australia Post. But the Met, so we've got doing the farm remote on Friday the 17th. Then we do the country ones from Monday 20th, and metropolitan from Wednesday the 22nd through to the 24th. So we envisage that if everything goes right and we don't have any COVID lockdowns or anything like that, that all our election packages will be in the hands of Australia Post by Friday the 24th of September. So we got there last weekend for effective campaigning, 2nd and 3rd of October. Why we sort of state that is, unlike a state election where the majority of people come to vote on election day, a postal vote for a local government election, which is not compulsory, we generally find that approximately 50% of what is going to come back will come back in the first 5 business days. So if you leave your campaign, start your campaign after that, you're potentially missing 50% of those people that are going to vote already voted. So you want to maximise your campaign around the time the election packages get lodged with Australia Post and delivered. So that would be towards the end of the week of the, around the 24th, that weekend, which is the long weekend. So you want to maximise your campaign around that point. Not to say that you don't campaign right up to election day. Of course, there's packages come right through, but I'm just saying there's potential 50% of what's going to come back has already come back if you leave it much too late there. Return election packages, they're posted back to the returning officer, come to the commission. They don't come to the City of Stirling, they come to the commission. Every ward in the state has a unique reply paid number allocated by Australia Post. They come to the commission. We will get a sort by Australia Post. They will give us numbers of how many come back on a daily basis, which we will post on the Commission's website. So every day you can go in and see how the returns are coming back. As I've mentioned, but typically 50% of the packages are returned within the first 5 business days. A couple of the rules for candidates. You cannot assist elect to mark their ballot paper. You or your representative cannot take custody of an envelope where there is a postal vote. So the penalty for both those is potential penalty of $5,000 or imprisonment for 1 year. Basically, the Commission had a successful prosecution from the 2019 local government elections where we successfully prosecuted a candidate who was door knocking somebody, I think it was an elderly person, gave them the package, they took custody of it. Another candidate come around a little bit afterwards, mentioned the person mentioned that they handed over, took them. So we got a complaint, we looked into it, we successfully prosecuted that candidate. So please don't do that. I always, as cynic in me, I say that they might be trying to trap you. So just don't do it. If they're elderly and things like that, again, any of their friends, any of their children, neighbours like that can post it or take it. But as a candidate or any people that are working for you, please don't. Replacement packages, basically they are extra packages that we produce to allow, if people haven't received it, destroyed it, or the dog ate it, or kids scribbled on it, they can get a replacement election package. What that means is there's a form to fill out for a replacement package. The original package gets cancelled and they get issued with another one. So that will be available from both the City of Stirling and also the 6 libraries in the district. Will be issuing replacement packages basically from the lodgement right through to Friday the 15th of October. And on election day, as a polling place, the City of Stirling here, people can come in and hand deliver their package or get a replacement on election day. Election day, so there is the City of Stirling is open as a polling place on election day. It's not for people to come in and vote. It's basically they can hand deliver their election package. If they do come in, they haven't got their original package, again, there's the issue of replacement. There's a process that needs to be done, a form filled in, cancel the original, issue with a new one. So that happens between 8 a.m. and 6, and then after 6 o'clock, the count is conducted. Unlike state and federal, the count's conducted on the night and declared on the night, subject to possible recounts or anything like that. The count process for local government elections, it's first past the post. You are a tick. So on all your election material, we want the tick. That's the instruction on the ballot paper, no numbers. So a tick. Single vacancies in all the wards in the City of Stirling, 1 tick. That's all we want, one tick on the ballot paper. Scrutineers are appointed scrutineers by the candidates are entitled to view the count. I mentioned that returning officer will declare the results on the night, and the results are posted on the Commission's website there, elections.wa.gov.au. Your $80 deposit, you're happy to know that you can get it back, and quite easily to get it back. Basically, the deposit are refunded to any candidate selected. So if you get elected, get your money back. Or if you're not elected, as long as you've received 5% of the total votes included in the count. So 5%, get above 5%, you get your $80 deposit back. Election material. Jamie's mentioned about the signage. Regarding the Electoral Commission, all election material needs to be properly authorised. Okay, there's no specific commencement date for electoral advertising. So any printed material, handbills, pamphlets, notice letters, must have the name and address of the person authorising it and the name and address of the printer who printed it. Okay, so both name and address and of the authorising person and the printer. You can authorise your own material, or you can have somebody else authorise your material if they're happy enough to put their name to it. The address cannot be a PO box, post office box. It must be a physical address, both the printer and the candidate or the authorising person. Anything that's in the newspaper just needs the name and address of the person who's authorising it, because we know who the printer is with the newspaper. And as Jamie's mentioned, refer to the local government's local laws regarding placement of signage. A couple of the electoral offences there that are covered in the Local Government Act. I've mentioned the printing and publishing of unauthorised election material. You may, I don't know if you have seen, there was a thing on Perth Now. There's a case before the courts at the moment about election material from the 2019 local government elections that we are pursuing through court. So as I mentioned, all election material needs the proper authorisation, and the penalty for that is potentially $2,000. So needs to be that. I mentioned the offences relating to postal votes, cannot take custody of them or assist an elector. Again, penalty for those, $5,000 or imprisonment, potential penalty of $5,000 or imprisonment for 1 year. So there's some serious penalties under the Local Government Act for some of these electoral offences. Regarding scrutineers, scrutineers are appointed by the candidate. They must be appointed in writing. There's a form that they need, both yourself need to appoint them and they need to sign. Some of their rights, they can be in the polling place at any time prior to the close of poll, observe the conduct of the election. They can observe the checking of postal voting papers, and together with the electoral officials, they're the only people that are present in the counting area to observe the proceedings of the count on election night. So the dedicated counting area, there'll be the electoral officials counting together under the direction of the returning officer, and scrutineers are the only other ones that are allowed to be in that area. Some of their restrictions, not take part in the conduct of the election, including taking custody of postal votes. They're not to record names of persons obtaining ballot papers, and that really more for the voting in person elections rather than postal elections. Disclosure of electoral gifts. So this is covered in the local government regulations, Part 5A of the local government elections regulations, and a copy of that section is on the USBs that the returning officer will give out. The CEO maintains the electoral gift register and is available for public viewing. Disclosure is to be made to the CEO on the prescribed form, 9A, and again, that's on the USB. Both the candidate and donor, So both the candidate and donor must disclose any gift of $200 or more, or 2 or more gifts received by one person totaling $200 or more within the 6-month period prior to election day. So if you get a gift of $100, you are to make sure that you know who the gift is from. You need to record all the gifts. You don't need to disclose at that point. You've only got, it's $100, it's under the threshold. That same person gives you another $50, you're at $150, you're fine, still don't need to disclose. And then they're feeling generous and give you another $50. 200, bang, you've reached the threshold, then you need to disclose those gifts. So some are there. So a gift does not include a gift by will or a gift by a relative, or a gift that the candidate would have received notwithstanding their candidature. So if it happens to be your birthday and somebody gives you a couple $100 because it's your birthday, you don't have to declare that as an electoral gift. So that's a 6-month period prior to election day. So basically it started on the 16th of April, 2021. When you need to disclose, so any gifts that you need to disclose that you have received prior to your nomination must be disclosed within 3 days of your nomination. So if you've got gifts now, you don't disclose until you actually become a candidate. Once you nominate, you must disclose those gifts within 3 days. Any further gifts that you receive that you need to declare, you must disclose within 3 days of receipt of that. So once you're nominated as a candidate, any gifts you receive after that, you need to disclose within 3 days of receipt. So I mentioned the commencement period, which is 16th of April, and basically concludes for unsuccessful candidates 3 days after election day, for successful candidates on the start day for financial interest returns that you need to do. Under the regulations, it stipulates the candidates must not receive the gift during the relevant period unless the name and address of each donor is actually known by the candidate. You must know who that gift is from. And again, potentially penalty is $5,000. Now, the new one is obviously crowdfunding. That's come into effect. Again, crowdfunding, you must know who the actual gift comes from. So there needs to be a very strict recording system of the name and the address of each of those people that are donating, because they may crowdfund you $50 and then again, later on another 150 you've got to declare. So you need to make sure you have a great recording system of knowing who the gifts are coming from, actual name and address. So basically, as I mentioned, you need to know who it's come from. If a brown paper bag happens to arrive on your doorstep and there's a gift in there, you don't know who it's from, under the regulation, it stipulates a candidate is taken not to have received a gift. So as soon as the candidate become aware of the gift, the candidate takes reasonable steps to return the gift. A bit hard if you don't know who it's from, or delivers it to the CEO for disposal and discloses the CEO the gift on the Form 9A. So I mentioned Part 5A of the Local Government Elections Regulations 1997, which is stipulated on the USB that we'll give out. Okay, I'll now introduce the returning officer. Leonie, please stand up. Yeah, come up. Yep. So Leonie's been appointed returning officer for the City of Stirling for this election. Was previously 2007 was the returning officer for Stirling, and then has been returning officer for the town of Victoria Park since 2009 through to 2019. There's Leonie's contact details, but I would like to stipulate that Leonie won't have the mobile phone or her email address as part of the 2-in-1 until she completes the training this weekend. So from next Monday, if you can, Leonie will be contactable on those details. Okay, and that's my... Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phil. Just an addition to what Phil said, this is a postal election. Given the size of the City of Stirling, we've taken a service that many local governments offer at their administration centre and offered it more broadly. And that is people can drop their ballot paper back to the administration centre or any of our 6 libraries, or at the Stirling Farmers Markets on a Sunday. The administration centre on that side will be open, and we'll have that facility both to drop back a ballot paper or to get a replacement ballot paper at all of those locations. We are aware that there are some concerns in the community about Australia Post being a bit slow. So if you are aware of people who want to return their ballot paper but aren't willing to rely on the post, just ask them to drop it off at their local library or the administration centre. There is some further information that is available from all of us. There are people watching at home, so I'll just go back a slide and read out to them the contact details of the returning officer is Leonie Veach. Her mobile number is 0437 847 248, and her email is lgro_sti@elections.wa.gov.au. In terms of further information that you might like coming out of this session, to everyone in the room, Phil, Stuart and myself will be available after the session for any questions that you might have. You can visit our website, and there is a wealth of information on our website about the city and also about the electoral process. You also have the USB that you got from the City of Stirling, or if you're watching from home, please get in touch with the city and we'll make sure that you get that information quickly. The Mayor, Mark Irwin, has kindly offered for you to contact him if you want to have a chat about the city and his perspective and the electoral process. His phone number is 9205 8502. Myself, if there's anything you want to know about governance at the city or aspects of the election, feel free to get in touch with me or my team. I'm on 9205 8517. Phil Richards here, Manager of Election Events. Anything that the returning officer can't answer is when you'd go to Phil, and I'm sure there won't be much. But the number for the WA Electoral Commission and for Phil is 9214 0443. It's now my turn to thank you. Democracy only works when we have people that put up their hand to represent the community. And it only works when there's more than one of those in a ward and the people in the community have a choice. So I'd encourage you to put your hand up and allow our community to choose who will be best to represent their community at the City of Stirling. Thank you very much for your time today, and feel free to come up and ask us questions after the session. Thank you.
Mingle.